All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Albert Will. You probably already have been introduced to me, but I'm meeting today with one of my long-term friends, and he can tell you how long we've known each other. He's working with us here at IT Security Solutions to make introductions, make sales, improve our processes. Let me introduce you to Hugh Haggerty. Hugh, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hugh Haggerty, and I've known Albert for approaching 60 years. So we go way back. And one thing that I found is as long as I've known him, Albert's always been the smartest guy in the room.
I don't try to be, I want to learn from all the other people that are smarter than I am, but you have to help others too.
Yes, but they're tough to find.
What, others or the smarter people?
Smarter people.
Well, that doesn't mean I'm stopping.
Okay, sounds like a winner. But we
So,
do go back a long ways, and Albert is truly a cybersecurity guru, if you will, Yoda, whatever you want to call him. I'm not sure what the current terminology is, but he's been doing this for a long, long time. Worked for everyone but Space Force. I don't think you've done anything with Space Force yet,
no,
have you?
Space Force came up afterwards, but
Yes.
yeah, I got started on the internet by building an ISP in Western Pennsylvania that ran on Linux. And then 9/11 happened, and that's when the FBI called me and said, "Hey, you work on the internet. We need some assistance." So I helped them vet the September 17th watch list and helped them create the Pittsburgh FBI InfraGard Member Alliance.
Yep.
Now they've changed it to InfraGard Member Alliance because it's nationwide.
Sounds like a winner.
When you have a good thing, you want to expand it. And that's what we're trying to do today is expand good things. And I want to start off with talking about risk assessments.
Okay.
Um, it's that untold secret that a lot of people don't want to talk about because they haven't done it. What have you heard about it, Hugh?
Well, I think most people, it's a subject that psychologically they don't know enough about. They're afraid to do anything and they're afraid not to do something. Generally speaking, their IT people tell them they have everything covered. And generally speaking, most of the people we've dealt with in the last 10, 15 years, their IT people told them the same thing until they weren't covered. It's better to get an expert in there who's seen it all, worked with the military, the three-letter acronyms, and all those people, seen some of the best, and come in, do an assessment, find out what the real deal is, particularly when you have some tools that nobody else has, like It's Safe.
Yeah, let's table it safe for a little bit later, but going
Okay.
down that road of the risk assessment, I often recommend people do a risk assessment on an annual basis. But I've worked at organizations that were only able to complete one third of their environment every 3 years. And to me, that's like opening the door and letting everybody in, or opening the barn door and letting the cows out, or the horses. You know, they're going to go do whatever they're going to go do. I mean, they're animals. So are our adversaries. So having an assessment that's current helps you identify what problems you have today so that we can help you clean up the mess, so to speak.
Yeah, obviously the stats that you mentioned are apparently they're not enough. It's not even close. And the sooner the better.
Yes, there's a saying the best day to start cybersecurity, do you know it?
Yesterday,
Yesterday. What's the second best day to start cybersecurity?
today.
Today. So if you haven't started cybersecurity, you're already behind. And the big thing that I want to talk about is our vulnerabilities in our supply chain. Now, I'm not trying to make people's heads explode, but if you think about the products that you're buying, Cisco, Netgear, Linksys. There's so many that sit on my shelf. Your phone, your computer, your monitors.
Your printers,
Where are they built?
China.
Yes, they're not made in the United States. So take a take a second and sit back and think about this. If you're going to go to war with another organization, another entity, are you going to bring 15 billion Chinese across the ocean in boats and planes and trains and automobiles? I mean, they're doing that already, but they don't have everybody here, right?
Right.
The next best thing is to do what the Communist Chinese Party did, and that's subsidize manufacturing in China so
Hmm.
that everybody buys their products, which includes backdoors.
Back doors.
Backdoors for instant remote access. Before you met me, Hugh, did you ever think about that?
No, not really. But I met you when we were about 5 years old, so I don't think that was
The
relevant
internet
subject
wasn't there
matter at
then,
the
and we were
time.
still building stuff here in the United States.
But I get your drift, and you have opened up my eyes to a lot of things, and certainly that's one of them. So many chips, so many modems, printers,
You look at this
computers,
product and you see that there's
telephone.
really nothing that appears
Right,
out of line, right?
right.
But the problem is just like brain surgery. You can
Hmm.
look at somebody with brain cancer or a tumor in their head, and they look perfectly fine. Or you could do the same thing for somebody with fibromyalgia. These are
Absolutely.
internal problems that
Right.
don't present themselves on the external body. Same thing happens with backdoors and
Yeah.
communications on the internet. You can't see it, but the adversary and the attackers have crafted their technology so that they know exactly what's happening and where it's coming from at any point in time.
Yeah. And it's latent. You won't know it until it's too late. That's the biggest problem.
And
So
that's
if you get out
basically,
in front of it
yeah.
and you need an assessment to get out in front of it, that's 95% of the battle.
Well, starting is the most difficult thing because people have resistance to move. It's called gravity.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to move unless they have to move. And by the time you have a data breach that costs $5 million, it's too late.
Yeah.
I circle back around to when's the best time to start in cyber. The sooner you start, the sooner we can help you avoid issues. And that's not necessarily true with other teams, which want to document with compliance reports or want to set up a graph of all the pretty vulnerabilities that came out and, different information like that. That doesn't fix it. That that gives those vulnerabilities a list. It's called
Yeah.
vulnerability list. And then you have to have vulnerability managers.
Right.
And
And those are known vulnerabilities.
that's very true.
So many of the things that are out there, like I say, they're latent and they're not going to be exposed until A, it becomes a commonly known breach, or B, someone spots it before a latent, whatever the malfeasance is, appears. And what are some of the examples that you've come across?
For
Some of the things that have happened from these latent, sinister attacks.
you know, I don't want to get into the weeds as far as what other people are doing, but I can tell you that when we bring our assessment team in to review an organization, the IT team is the one that gives us the biggest problems because they think that we're out to get them.
Hmm.
And we're not. We're out to protect the organization, which saves their job, which also saves the money that the owner has to pay out on fines. I don't really want their job.
Yeah.
I want to protect them because I know what's happening and they don't. IT works with tangible items. Cybersecurity works with nebulous concepts about communications that go through an electronic or fiber optic media called the
Hmm.
internet. These are two totally different technologies that we're talking about, and they're not really related other than the IT keeps the organization plugged in, we keep them running.
Yeah. I'll tell you, as you speak, I just can't get the image out of my head of a CFO walking into a seedy bar in a bad part of town with mega bucks in a satchel in cash, and how uncomfortable that would be on one of those cyber blackmail situations.
Yeah,
I
that was the
just can't.
ransom they had to pay, wasn't it?
Yes, I just can't get that image out of my head. And if that doesn't make you feel uncomfortable enough to do an assessment, I don't know what will.
So recently, I encountered an organization that had the CEO go over to Dubai.
Hmm.
And while in Dubai, since his home network wasn't in Dubai,
Right?
he'd like to use free Wi Fi.
Sure.
I think
Like
I took you through the free
Starbucks
Wi Fi.
in Panera Bread
Yes, in
and
Panera
places
Bread.
like
And I
this.
showed you all the traffic we
Yeah.
could
Oh,
see,
that was
the
insane.
usernames and passwords. So practitioners can look at the traffic and see what's
Hmm.
going on. People that use the technology, they don't care about the traffic and what's going on. They just want to click their click on
Right?
Facebook or email or instant messenger. And that's what we're here to provide,
They
that's
they could
force.
be on any whether it's social media, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's your accounting package, whether you're doing meritorious work or wasting time on social media, you can be hacked.
Ooh, did you go there? Meritorious work or
Yes,
wasting time on
if you're
social
in your
media?
accounting package or salesforce.com, we'll consider that meritorious work. If you're on Facebook during working hours, that falls into the other category, but they're both dangerous.
Yes, they are, because the problem is you don't know what's on the server that you're going to connect to.
Right.
You don't know who's hosting the images that you're using in Facebook when you see these links and these
Hmm.
messages and the ads. The ads are horrible. Don't click on the ads. Don't click
Well,
on the free games. They sound really
absolutely.
inviting.
Absolutely not. And the
And they're
thing
meant
is,
to be that way.
I don't think that Starbucks and Panera Bread are sinister companies, but there are people in there and in their network who are. They may be in that physical location, they may be in Romania, they may be in China, they may be in someone's bedroom in California. But nonetheless, they can all do damage, and certainly you don't want to become a victim of that. Best way to avoid it, like you say, be very selective on the links that you click and the ads that you view.
So that brought us up to seeing hidden traffic.
Hmm.
The tools that everybody uses today, the firewalls and the virus scanners, are 4% effective. They don't work on hidden traffic. They
Right.
work on looking for items of known exploit.
Yes.
Here's the problem. The adversary knows exactly what you're looking at with your tools because they have the tools too. So if they know
Absolutely.
what you're looking for, don't you think they can craft something that is unseen or invisible? It takes 3 bytes to change a known vulnerability into an unknown. And now we're working with 0-day threats.
Mhm.
And that takes even longer periods of time to try to identify as a quote unquote known threat. So if you've been breached with a 0-day, how will you find out?
Well, when two other people are breached and it becomes a known entity.
Well,
And obviously that's way too late.
that's way too late. Yes. Our goal is to mitigate the breach before it succeeds. What does that mean? Stop it in its tracks. Now, I mentioned that you can't ask the computer if it's healthy or not. We do things differently.
Right.
We go in the network and we see what's going back and forth to each of those devices. The legitimate traffic, I don't care if it's Facebook during business hours or not, is fine.
Right.
But if legitimate traffic also asks you to download new malware from hackmenow.com, do you think you really want that? Because current tools aren't looking for that.
Right. What about traffic coming in from Romania and countries, the Stan countries, and Brazil, and
Stan
places
and
that you don't
Ollie?
even do business with?
Stan and Ollie?
You know, the Stan countries.
Go ahead, enlighten me.
Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, all of the Stan countries, in
Okay.
Romania, and the Eastern European
These
countries.
are well known harbinging sites for
Absolutely.
electronic mafia. But
Yeah.
guess where their second favorite place to go is?
Where?
The cloud service providers that you're
Mm,
using on every day. So you can't identify everything as being from a foreign country. It might actually go to a foreign country on
sure,
the cloud
sure, sure.
service, but it only takes 5 minutes to stand up a new cloud environment to start hacking you from. So known tools aren't going to do anything about it because they don't know of this existence. That's where we draw the line. We actually look at the value of the communications. Um, I wanted to talk about zero trust,
Oh, mercy, yes.
something I've been working on for over 10 years.
That's your signature, one of your signature scenarios. I don't know if you copyrighted that or not, but I know that
No,
you've
I
written
can't copyright that. The
several
industry
books.
came up with that. I might copyright a book or a new technology. And I've already written 4 books in under two
Right,
years.
right.
2 of them are the hashtag hacked series, the anthology. But the different thing here is zero trust.
I've heard that from you over 10 years ago.
Absolutely. I don't trust communications that I
Mhm.
can't um, understand why it's there. And I look at traffic all the time to see whether or not it's intended to be there or if it came in maliciously or something of that sort. But zero trust is the only way to eliminate the bad actors from our environment and prevent them from exploiting it. So we do that zero trust thing with the It's Safe security appliance that sits inside the network. What I'm saying
Yes.
is a happy business is a cyber safe business. Get it safe, and we'll make your business cyber safe.
Okay, can you explain to me how It's Safe works?
Yes, I can. It's safe sits right behind the firewall in a business and before the network switch. So if there
Okay.
was a cable there, we take out the cable, put our device in, plug all the components back together. It takes, I don't know, 3 minutes to plug
Hmm.
all the devices in. And then we see all traffic going in and out.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't matter how big it is. Well, in some situations, if we have an organization with multiple locations, we're going to have it safe at each location.
Sure.
But suffice it to say, if you're not monitoring the environment, guess who is?
The enemy.
So it's safe is continuous monitoring. Remember, we talked about having a risk
24/7.
assessment?
Right.
Well, if you're only reviewing a risk assessment every year annually or
Hmm.
every 3 years, that's too long. Because
Right.
in those situations, the only way you're going to see an event is if you're logging the data, the activity
Hmm.
of the application, the machine, the authentication sequences, the access, blah, 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 and you stick it in a seam. Now,
Hmm.
all seams are not built the same, and all are not configured so that you can see what happened, but they're all a view into the past.
Right.
That view into the past doesn't stop things that are happening right now
Now.
or tomorrow because you didn't know that they were there. So if they took all of your personal information, all your client data a year ago, how are you going to
Mhm.
stop that?
You're not. And just almost as important, how will you know it even happened?
That is the $64,000 question. How will you know it happens? Is it because somebody came to you and said, "We're a client of yours and we found our data on the dark web from you"?
Hmm.
And that's usually a very uncomfortable situation. That conversation could lose friends, clients, as well as financial money to be
Sure.
invested in
Absolutely.
those fines.
Absolutely.
That's where a bad day occurs and continues until things are fixed. Now, insurance won't fix that, right? They're going to try to help you put a band aid on it. You've had skinned knees, maybe grandkids with skinned knees.
Hmm.
And you kiss it, and you make it feel better, put some neosporin on it, and stick a band aid on it, and hope, wish, and pray it goes away in a couple days. Well, you can't
Usually
do
does.
that. You can't
Right.
do that with a data breach. You can't get the data back, right? So it's safe does continuous monitoring to mitigate the threat as soon as it's identified, which can happen in multiple different ways. All right.
Hmm.
And if we're blocking the bad actors, we don't have to worry about picking up the pieces that happened yesterday because
How
that's
does
already healed.
how does the It Safe differ from a firewall?
So a firewall is kind of like a front door.
Hmm.
If you think about your house, you have a front door and you have multiple windows, and maybe it's 2 stories, and you have windows along the side of the house and the back of the house, and
Hmm.
maybe there's a shed in the backyard with a ladder. I
Hmm.
actually had one in my previous house. Um, Ladder's not in the shed right now. It's safe, doesn't look exactly at the front door because that's the firewall's job.
Hmm.
The firewall puts a doorway for the public internet into the private organization.
Okay.
But there's over a dozen ways to beat a firewall. So if I'm going to beat the firewall and I'm inside, the firewall's going to let me go outside,
Hmm.
but not it's safe because we can see the activity on the inside from the bad actors on your infected devices and we'll block it. If you got malware, don't worry. They're not going to get back through to update the malware. We're going to keep it where it is until you can rebuild the computer. That mitigates your vulnerability list.
Hmm.
How much is that worth? Oh, wait, there's more. No, I'm kidding.
That is fascinating. So,
And we do it without increasing headcount. A lot of people have built industries on technology that requires 5 people in an organization to run.
Right. Okay.
We don't do that. We can actually manage the service for them and generate the reports. They don't need additional people. So if you're small 5-man shop
Hmm.
or 10-man environment or under 250-man environment and you don't have IT and cyber, well, you're in trouble for one thing. You just don't know it yet, but we can help you protect and secure your environment. And it doesn't take additional people to do it.
That's nice. And even if you do have cybersecurity staff, you don't have something like ItSafe.
No, because it hasn't been out there.
Right.
It's coming.
So if you would say that the firewall, I even like a better analogy that a firewall is a fence because it's a wall, fence is a wall. Just the analogy rolls a little better. But the I guess it's safe would be like a safe that they can't get into.
No, don't want to go there. Not a safe.
No?
No, it because I'm not doing data. I'm not doing a protection box that technology can break. What I'm
Okay.
doing is looking at live traffic that got into the house,
Oh, okay.
not through the front door, through the second story bathroom window
Window.
using the
Okay.
ladder. You have
Okay.
no understanding that it's there.
Hmm.
And now it's communicating with China.
Okay.
Well, we're going to stop the communicating with China like
So
that.
you won't let it get back out.
Right.
You know it's there. You spot it. It's like a guard dog.
Yeah, it's bigger and badder than a guard dog. It's
Maybe
like
you
the
can
whole
get in,
battalion.
but you're not going to get out.
Right.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
that gives the IT team or the owner time to replace the equipment with fresh working software. Now, the problem is, even Microsoft, over the course of the years, hasn't fixed their security. Every Tuesday, they have what's known as what?
Cyber Tuesday.
Cyber Tuesday, Patch Tuesday, any Tuesday will do.
Okay.
I mean,
Hmm.
and sometimes the patches break everything. Oh, wait. In October, we're going to obsolete Windows 10. So Windows 10 goes dormant because there won't be any patches or anything going on.
Hmm.
The attackers are going to have a field day unless you
Yes.
have instant protection that screens the activity to eliminate the attackers. How does that sound?
Ergo, yes.
So that report that we started off with doesn't show who's inside the network, doesn't show how they got in the network, doesn't show anything with users because
Hmm.
most risk assessments are done with users outside of the network so that you don't make it slow for them to do their work. But the problem is every event has the user in the system and could have been breached because of them.
So basically, I'm going to throw an analogy out that you're coming in to do a restaurant inspection and all the employees are gone. All the stoves are shut down, all the boilers are shut down, and everything's shut down. So you could come in and
And
do
the
an
food's
assessment.
put away,
Yeah.
the,
When
the
in
menus are
reality,
stacked.
yeah, in reality, it's an
Chaos.
ongoing, every day, it's live. And what this allows you to do is do your assessment live while everybody is interacting, all the employees are there, the remote employees. What would you say, and what would you say the percentages of hacks, we'll just use that term generically, come from remote employees logging into the corporate networks.
Yeah, well, that's going to depend on the corporate environment, but at least 50%. I mean, the pandemic did us no favors for security.
Yes, yes, yes,
That
yes.
destroyed business security because everybody used to be protected,
Hmm.
security operations team at the business when they worked in the office.
Hmm.
Take
Hmm.
your equipment home, work on the naked internet without
Log in.
protections,
Right.
and you don't know what's going to happen. But I can show you.
Hmm. So you have to account for their personal system. I have an AT&T broadcast Wi-Fi egg. That's what I use for my internet. Some people have cable, uh, modem supplied by the cable company. Other people have an Orbi. We used to have an Orbi, still do, sitting over there in the closet
Collecting dust.
collecting dust. But in any case, there are 1,000 different home personal internet modalities, and somehow the corporate office has to account for all of those.
So,
Good luck.
in people's homes, there's no telling how they got connected to the internet. There are multiple pathways.
Right.
What makes it worse is people select things through email, social media,
Hmm.
advertisements, and they click a link.
Hmm.
It's that clicking of a link that instantaneously hacks you. If you click the link and a page is shown, you've already been compromised.
Yes.
They already have all your cookies.
Hmm.
They have your personal information on that browser, and they're ready to jump in for more because it's hard to see exactly the threats that are in the image software or on the web server itself. And not everybody is as security conscious when they stick a web page up.
Right. Right.
So, how do you know?
I guess you have to get it safe.
Well, we can show you exactly what's going on. Matter of
But
fact, I think
fast.
we're running a special now for our free risk assessment. Instead of charging you $3,500 to come in and do a review, we'll do the review for free. And you can then purchase the product and have it configured for your environment for $7,500. This is small business.
Yeah. What fascinates me is the myriad of countries that every single scenario exposes. It's 30 countries are on your network, and you're a dental practice with local people in Western Pennsylvania. Maybe you have some vendors, but that just blows my mind
Well,
that people from Romania, in South America, in the middle of Africa are in your network. It just blows my mind. I can't
we're
get
in a
over
global environment, you
it.
know?
Right.
And every day I receive 5 to 50 offers for web design and application development from foreign entities.
Hmm.
So let's say I have a web page that I want to be built out with special functionality. Um, you don't know who to trust, but people that you can see, you vet very hard. And some of these teams that are working offshore, meaning not
Hmm.
in the US,
Right.
or maybe with people that are not US citizens, you don't really know what they're doing. The threat
I
is
know.
real.
Yeah, it definitely is real, and you're very good about not exposing past clients and some of the things that they dealt with. You have to be in this industry because people that have been hacked, the last thing they want is for other people to know about it. I remember that one um, that seminar that the FBI put on,
Yeah.
and they threw all the reporters out.
Yeah.
And it was put on, we can say Pitt and the FBI, University of Pittsburgh and the FBI, and everybody who was associated with the news industry, reporters were all thrown out. I remember a bunch of them calling you afterwards to see what was going on because I know you've been on TV and on the radio and that sort of thing dozens of times, but you can't say anything. These companies who co-sponsored this event, they don't want anyone to know that they've been hacked. You really it's like an accountant
You
or
don't
a
get any
psychologist
value out of
or a
trying
lawyer.
trying to tell
Right.
everybody else that Joe
Other
Smith's
people's
business got
business.
hacked.
Yeah. Right.
That doesn't give you any value. Now, coming
No.
back to say that you help protect people that got hacked has more
Yeah.
value.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I can say that the CFO with the satchel of cash would have saved himself a lot of sleepless nights and 1,000 times as much money if they would have just paid $3,500 for an assessment. That's
Well,
all I
that's
have.
where it starts. I mean, that's significantly less than trying to pay for unlocking your computers with ransomware.
Right.
And
Or
the
with cold
main
hard
problem
cash.
is you never get that data back. I just read a
Right.
story $20 million dollars to confirm that they were going to delete the data from the far end. I don't get it. How do you
Yeah.
confirm that they deleted the data if it's somebody else's equipment?
Right.
The only thing to do is protect your environment.
And the good news was when they paid the money in the satchel in a seedy bar in a bad part of town, they did get their systems up and running again. They did get access to their system. So when they paid the
Until the
ransom,
next breach.
yeah, the breach was negated, so to speak, but they still had control of their system.
Right, because they didn't do anything to change it.
Right. Well,
You're going to do the same thing over and over again and
they
expect
took
different
care of it.
results.
They took, you know, took care of that situation, but nonetheless, it's very uncomfortable to go into a situation like that with a satchel full of cash. Uh, I know most people, most executives wouldn't want to go through that trauma.
Sure thing. Agreed.
And there are a million stories just like that.
Easily. Well, I wanted to capture all of this communication so that we can put it together and showcase it on the web, the YouTube, and maybe help some people with understanding what's going on. The real problem is with the speed of our networks today,
Mhm.
you can't look at your network or the speed of your computers to say whether or not they've been breached. When I started in computing, I had a 300 baud modem. Pretty slow.
Likewise.
Today, I have a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection.
Hmm.
There's nothing faster than fiber optics to get me onto
Hmm.
the internet. The problem is, I don't have attackers flashing big, bold messages on my screen now saying, "You've been hacked." They don't want you to know.
Right.
The
Well,
secret is they were
that
built in.
still occurs. That still occurs, and you have
It
to
may
deal with it.
occur,
And
but the
we've dealt
secret
with
is
it.
better kept by not telling you they're there so that they can get
Hmm.
all of the information and control that they want.
Hmm. That's more of a ransomware hack, but it still happens, and you do get the big block message. And what's interesting, a lot of times uh, they make it seem like it's Microsoft, and you have an issue, and you call their support people, and they want to get online and take over control of your keyboard from their location. And if you're not careful, you may be convinced that it really is Microsoft when it's really not. That happens all the time too.
The call center
Yeah, the call
in
center.
in India.
Yeah, or other places, but
Could be somewhere else, yes.
yeah, it could be
Could
somewhere
be
else.
Cleveland.
Could be Cleveland. Could be Romania. I keep going back to Romania. But in any case,
This has been fun.
yes, it has. Good, clean fun.
Thanks for your time, Hugh.
My pleasure, Albert. And I hope that this opens some eyes out there.
Well, let's hope.
In any case, have a wonderful day. Thank you for including me.
Absolutely.